Okay, we are live. Yay. There's a little bit of a lag, which always throws me. So it is what it is.
Well,
Um, so hi, Laura. I'm here
hey
with
Lynn.
Laura from ADORAtherapy, and I can tell she's in her store because she's got her great signage behind her. Now, Aura Therapy,
Yeah.
which do you want to talk about that or not talk about that?
Yeah, no, it's a little, you can get the scoop. You'll be the first to know. But yeah, we're doing a rebrand next year. Um, Kind of inspired by our hurricane, challenges, as you know. It gave us an opportunity to kind of look at where we were, and we lost a lot of merchandise, and so we had to order more. And we were very much looking at a rebrand at some point in the future. And when we saw that we probably wanted to reinvest before tariffs go up, like many other brands,
Hmm.
it was the timing seemed like it was maybe fortuitous. So Aura Therapy will go live at the end of January. And same products, same packaging, some tweaks and improvements. But the brand is really moving from more of a beauty focus to more of a wellness focus, which is kind of an interesting
Yeah.
pivot because we've been in both spaces, but we're very much now all the way in with wellness. And we have a few other things that we're launching as a part of the rebrand. We have a book coming out
Ooh.
about aura readings that Jim and I co-authored. So Jim's our chief aura therapist. And then we have a certification program where we're going to begin to train people in our aura therapy methods to allow them to become practitioners and have our kind of seal of approval. And so that's like another whole part of the business that's a little different than the traditional beauty brand where maybe we're just focused on selling products.
Yeah, I love that. And I actually think it's super smart because these days, when you can create experiences with your products and not just products, I think, and that's really what from the very beginning. I mean, that was
Yeah,
kind of what you were doing. Let's just back up for people that don't know your brand and just explain a little bit more
sure.
because I know it. So I'm already like, oh, yeah, that's brilliant. But like,
Yeah. Yeah. Day one, what we were was we were a manufacturer. And so we made products that were essential oil fragrances, and they were designed to be healing products. But it was very hard at the beginning under the brand name of ADORAtherapy to tell the story of aromatherapy. People really don't understand the category in mainstream beauty. So the whole market shifted from when we started in 2015 from what are we? And so you could find aromatherapy products in a Whole Foods, for instance, or a grocery store because it was considered to be more like a wellness thing,
yeah.
maybe an apothecary, but not in the shelves of a beauty store. So over the years, we tried to evolve the brand to be more focused on luxury, prestige, get out of the mass market. And then as a result, we've pivoted a lot of different times, but the brand essentially focuses on creating aromatherapy blends that are, beautiful, organic, healing, vegan, cruelty free. And, in when was COVID? 2020, right? We
Yeah.
pivoted to, a retail concept instead of a wholesale concept. And then within that, also to more of a D2C e-commerce. And we introduced the aura readings within the store as an experience to complement our chakra collection. And that's when the brand really kind of started to resonate. We really learned where we could push the edge of going into that wellness story. So it's been an incredible journey. It's like how many years now? Almost 9. So I think we'll be, yeah, I'm not sure we're going to make it to 10 years, but we'll be starting again and going forward.
Every year you think that, right? It's like, oh, is
Oh my
this
gosh.
year that crushes us? And then it almost does, but then you keep going somehow. But I think the thing that's interesting about what you're talking about, well, you've got lots of interesting things in there. I'm going to unpack a little bit, but okay, first of all, your business, yes, it's fragrances, and there are fragrances you can roll on your body, and then there's also fragrances to scent your space
Spray. Yeah.
room. And that's also very interesting because I think people really do relate to, especially after COVID, wanting to have an environment that feels welcoming and feels like it's full of gratitude and peace and harmony
hmm
and creativity and all those things that you can get from your chakra blends. But what I was going to say was it's not just for people. You also do the aura readings on pets to really
Yeah.
understand what your pet is dealing with. And I love that. I mean, people are obsessed about their pets as I
Yeah.
am. My babies. And we actually had the aura reading, and it's fascinating because you do get this understanding of kind of maybe, I don't know, the trauma or the motivation or what's
Hmm.
driving your pet's behavior a little bit.
Yeah.
Uh, you want to just explain how
Yeah,
that?
so with the Aura system that we use is not a photograph, it's actually a scan, and the scanning is on a device. It looks like a hand scanner. For the pets, it's so cute. It's like a paw, two paw scanners. It brings in information from your energy field and it puts that into software through a laptop hardware, and then it displays it as a series of graphs and reports. And so we call that the detailed report. There's a pet aura reading report, and it tells you not just what your aura colors are, and your aura would be your vibe, let's say, how other people feel you, but it's also telling a lot about like how your energy is sensed based on what is going on with you. Are you very mental? Are you very spiritual? Are you very open-hearted? And then the chakras is another component where we see your chakras. We're seeing them on a graph, a bar chart, and that bar chart has numerical values. So you can actually see like kind of how your chakras are doing. The goal is to be balanced. Most of us have ups and downs. Your chakras are generating your aura. So it's like a very insightful thing. It's quite accurate. We've done, I don't know, maybe over 6,000 at this point. And that's why we wrote a book, because we found that we were like actually becoming experts at this field. And when we were looking at who knows about auras, it's often just psychics. And then there are photographers who do aura photography, but they're not, there's no data. You know, they have the pictures, they're beautiful. So we were like, we really have a lot to share. Let's tell the stories of what we're seeing and what people do with their energy. And so that's kind of it. And then the aromatherapy ties in, because the aromatherapy, not so much for the pets, but for the people, is breath work is one of the ways that you can transform yourself, your energy, you know, calm down your anxiety, ground yourself, improve your motivation, your focus, because the essential oils are like plant medicine. And so they're a wonderful catalyst for healing the and balancing the chakras. So yeah, that's the world we live in. We kind of think of ourselves as energy healers, but we're trying to get the woo-woo out of it so that it's data driven.
It's super interesting because I think you're right. You might end up being like the leading expert in this, what I think is a very um, trending, emerging space,
Yeah.
because people are more and more open-minded, I think, about understanding that there's this energy. I mean, and it's not even that hard to convince someone when you just kind of go, hey, if you meet a new person, what's the vibe you're picking up? You can tell
Yeah.
your energy's jiving. Are they not? It's
Hmm.
like people know like quickly. So I think that's really interesting. So tell me, can people's energy or aura, can your aura shift dramatically month to
Hmm.
month, year to year,
Yeah.
day to day?
So your aura doesn't shift very much. Your aura is somewhat fixed. If you're doing a tremendous amount of work on yourself, or something about how you live your life changes, that's when your aura colors can change. So I'll take the example of somebody who's maybe retiring after maybe they are an accountant. You know, when they're an accountant, they may have more mental energy. They're more driven to be, solar plexus. So they'll have yellow, maybe they'll have blue, maybe they'll have some violet. Maybe as they get older, retire, they're going to have more purples and violets, which means they're getting rid of the yellow in the energy field. Now, they may still have a very big solar plexus chakra, but they're not performing at that mental level. So the aura changes. Another example would be somebody who maybe had some trauma and had more like red or orange in their aura. As they heal themselves, they'll start to get into colors that do not have red and orange. So yellows and greens and blues. And again, blues and violets and blues and greens. And so in our system, the colors are specific to our system. Somebody who may have had an aura reading with a camera would be like, well, my colors were like this. Well, I'm sure they were, and I'm sure they meant that in that system, but like in our system, the colors have specific significance too. Now your chakras change all the time, but there is a pattern. I call it like the default chakra setting. And you'll know it. Like if you get that email where somebody upsets you and you all of a sudden feel like
Yeah.
tension, the gut or the heart or your throat gets tight, well, surely you know that chakra just went down. It may go back up as you resolve that. But where we have kind of like, we're like a dirt road that was wet and then a big heavy truck went through it and the tires sunk in and it just kind of sets like that. And then we keep driving that road. And if you want to get off that tire track, you have to do some work. And it's the same with our energy. We tend to be dialed into patterns because they're protective, performative. They serve us up to a point. When we know we are not doing okay with what our default is when we have health issues typically. And that's when we start doing that introspection, right? How do I stop being stressed? How do I start taking care of myself? Why am I stressed? Where is the stress in my body? And yeah, most of us can survive with sort of ups and downs. And if you're really wanting to do balance, very simple things, meditation, grounding, protection, prayer, gratitude, all the stuff that we know we should do, but we may not always do it.
So there's no like right or wrong aura, right? Like there's no
No,
like I want to be green or I want to be blue, right? It's just you have to kind of own what your energy is,
it's
except
such a good point.
you
Yeah.
don't want to really be red though.
Let's say you are red, and I've had a few, like out of the total population that we've done, maybe less than 1% is red. Red may mean that there was trauma that was physical. So somebody with PTSD, somebody who was maybe in a war, a veteran, somebody who maybe had a physical injury. The trauma of that is in the aura. But if their chakras are balanced, no problem. What you don't want is you don't want low chakras, but your aura could be pretty much any color. It's kind of like, I call the red aura the crimson warrior. I mean, who doesn't want to be a crimson warrior, right? But,
True.
if your root chakra is a one, then yeah, maybe there's some healing that needs to happen because you're not grounded and in your body. So why is that?
I just think it's very fascinating because it basically means that all of us, no matter how balanced you actually think you are, the science behind this may tell you otherwise.
Yeah, yeah.
And in a good way, because like when I did it, I was low on joy. I was pretty high on everything else, but I'm like, oh. And then I thought about it. I'm like, actually not that surprised because look at
Hmm.
I'm running around doing all this stuff. It's like, and so that actually did make me pause, kind of
Hmm.
reflect a little, and then think,
Yeah.
I'm I'm going to Italy.
Yeah, yeah. Like what would make my heart open? And I
You know
think
what I
that's
mean?
interesting. Like somebody who would be like, I'm not the way I want to be and be defensive about it. That's like a whole personality thing, right? Like, because that's a control thing. Self-acceptance looks like I'm where I'm at and I'm going to now work from there. But yeah, we don't always get to choose how we are. And so that's where the heart piece comes in, right? And why the brand was called ADORAtherapy for many years, because it was all about teaching people to adore themselves and
Yeah.
reminding themselves that they are divine, and that when we do self-care, not the self-care like we love to talk about in the beauty world, where it's maybe like a bubble bath or a massage, but with self-care that's also internal and spiritual and is like looking at the human as a inner and outer person, right? What's inside is outside. That's where we get into this adoring yourself concept. So we're not leaving that behind when we do aura therapy. Actually, the book is called Aura Therapy, A Guide to Adoring Your Chakras and Your Aura. So we still keep that piece in because being heart centered is very much a part of like what the chakra system is. That the heart is the center. There's seven chakras, so three and three, and the heart is the one in the middle. So that's the
Okay.
seven. So we always want that, and the heart holds everything together. It's the bridge. But we're moving away from that because of all the reasons why. Hard to have two brands that kind of do the same thing. We like the SEO piece of the aura because when you search, you find aura right away. And there was always the play on the word aromatherapy, therapy. And in this case, we still do that because we call our aura readers aura therapists, because not only are they doing your
Mm.
aura reading, but they are providing some counseling around like what you're specifically doing with your energy.
I could see that this becomes like a new profession in 10 years. There are going to be hundreds of aura therapists who are helping people. Because really, if you think about the other tools that we have at our disposal to try to cope and deal, and by the way, I was just talking to someone else about how loneliness is, going
Mm,
up,
yeah,
depression's going up, anxiety's going up, like, and we don't really, social media continues to be it's not going down, so it's
yeah,
like we don't really have a counterpoint to combat some of that stuff easily. So
yeah,
this may be one of those tools that really starts to resonate with people and to take off. I
yeah.
hope so.
I hope so.
Um,
I mean, and when you build a business as an entrepreneur, you're always looking for market fit, but you're also looking for like a blue ocean opportunity. So it's really interesting because I know you, like me, read all the trades and you're like, what's
yeah,
trending? And so, like, you have a lot of med spas and people doing injectables, and that's a trend. And then all of a sudden, 5 years later, you're like reading, oh, nobody wants that anymore because they want a natural look. And or it might be makeup is trending or this is trending, and you look at what's trending. So wellness in and of itself is really pulling away to become a whole category that's super big, billions of dollars. And within it, there's like, travel wellness, spas used to be travel wellness, but now that's not even a category because people do retreats and they go on trips and
right.
so like there's all this stuff going on within the category, but bringing data into the wellness field is a really cool thing. And we do think that this tool can be used to, not just in our business, it can be used in a spa by a spa practitioner who does massage or does other kinds of healing modalities. They maybe have a yoga studio. The people who come there might want to know how they're really doing. And there's no way to diagnose that except to get on a table with a healer. And the healer, if you trust them, will say, you're blocked here. But like, how many of us trust at that
Right.
level? Right. And so like I'm a human. I want to know, like, show me. And so I think it's going to be something that can be added to, all kinds of services inside of existing businesses. And that's why we're creating that program so that we can be the trainer. And then also, if we end up with many, many stores that have aura therapy bars, that's wonderful. But as you know, it's so challenging to do physical retail. We're trying to find ways to be like more like the Uber of aura therapists, where like we can train people, they're in different cities, and then they
Yeah.
can build a business like a coach can build a business within their geographic limitations so that anybody in any city can find a couple of aura therapists that they could work for. And then we help either book them, but we definitely train them, and then they can also sell our products. So,
I think that's a really smart model, because let's talk about retail. Retail is rough,
oh,
and
yeah.
it really blew up, obviously, in COVID. Then when things started to come back and there was a lot of empty stores, we took advantage of it as a conscious beauty collective. But it's not easy because a lot of consumers really shifted to buying online, like permanently.
Yeah.
And they bought some things online before, and now they're buying things that they would have never necessarily bought online before, like Amazon Fresh and, getting,
Hmm.
you know, um, and so it's definitely evolving and changing all the time. Um, so you are in your store in Miami, I'm assuming.
Yep.
And it's painted the lovely orange, which is
Yeah.
grounding. The root is which
Sacral. That was the sacral. So
the sacral.
creativity, femininity, and we chose orange for Miami because Miami is very sacral. It's a party town.
I
And that's
love
that.
that. I mean, you're right. That's definitely a good fit.
Yeah.
But do you have any insights to share around retail? Because one of the things that I've struggled with, and we've talked,
Hmm.
but like, how do you, first of all, create engaging experiences? Well, I think you've solved that with your aura reading, so that's
Yeah.
great. But the bigger problem I've had is how do you scale it? Because there's only one of you. You can only be at the store so many hours. Jim
Yeah.
can only be at the store so many hours. Nobody's going to be as good as you guys, let's face it. And so it becomes a real conundrum of how do you
Yeah.
scale
How do you
it?
do it? Yeah. You probably know this because I know you were in advertising. So my background before being in beauty was in fashion. And one of the things I did is develop products for all the big vertical retailers. So over, my
Mm.
career in fashion, I worked with those retailers to set up stores. Not, we did product and fashion products, but you saw a store that started with maybe five store doors and ends up being the limited or being
Yeah.
Express or Victoria's Secret, because I'm old enough that I was there when all those stores started and then became, hundreds and hundreds of stores. In the old days, that was the model. We did not have e-commerce. So if you grew, you added stores, and they all know how to do that really, really well. Today, most of the brands have fewer stores, and they're combination of a billboard marketing community, and a lot of the business moves to online. So I think the idea of omni-channel was always there, but omni-channel really needs to be redefined because everybody's trying to figure out not just the channel for selling, but the channel for marketing, because it's so expensive to create a way for people to experience your products. That, hold on, somebody's calling me and I gotta do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So somebody to experience your products, they need to be in physical retail, or you need to have great sampling programs. So these are all hard things to do in, the digital world, but in the physical world, if you're smelling, if you're doing all these other
Yeah.
things, then um, you need to have a physical presence. Now, if you put your products in somebody else's store, and I did this at the beginning when we started, we were in like 500 doors. My experience was the products didn't sell very well because all that happens is you get the order, and as a brand, you're like happy, you have money, cash flow, somebody liked it, but there's nobody to sell your product in most retail stores. So it just sits there. And
Yeah.
then why the social media and the marketing and the online piece became so big in the last 7 years, whatever, like I do, you have to spend all your time building content, creating stories, posting, da da da. It's because nobody will know or want to go in the store and buy that if you're not, you know, not cool, if you don't have a presence, if this person who's cool doesn't love you. So the whole mechanics of like how to get attention on your brand have shifted, and everybody's trying to be omni marketing channel too. Like, where is the channel that's going to give me that? So a store is a great way to test a lot of things out. I think what you provide with Conscious Beauty Collective, because I don't know if everybody knows, but we've been hosting a Conscious Beauty Collective pop-up in Miami for the last 4 months, and doing all these things to see what brands just sell on their own, or what brands,
Yeah.
if you talk about them, sell. And the kind of the discovery for me, because they're in my store and I understand how to sell my products, is it really does require a lot more than putting a product on a shelf. The shelf is not it's not the beginning, it's not even the end. The shelf is like, so not anything, it's everything after the shelf that's
Yeah.
really the thing. And then that's where the brands have to do the heavy lifting, because the retailers certainly will not and can't.
It's so true. And the brands don't like to hear it. And I can't tell you how many brands I've spoken to who just think they can just send the products and
Hmm.
then it will just sell itself. And I don't think, a few of them have learned it the hard way with, Sephora, Costco, other types of large
Mm,
retailers, QVC, but some of them not so much. And they just have this very naive understanding, I think, of retail and the requirements and what you got to do. And I think when you have products, okay, yours especially because they're scent based,
yeah.
people need to smell them and see, do I even like the scent? But even mine, people want to smell the shampoo. They want to see the texture. They want to,
Hmm.
try this shine serum. It's just a reality of how consumers are. And so if you don't have the ability to kind of meet them in those spaces and help educate them on why
Yeah.
clean beauty is important. People, we all talk about it like it's old news, but 90% of the hair care market is still dirty, still has sulfates, parabens, and
Yeah, yeah.
phthalates.
And here's the other thing. I'm like, my eyesight isn't any good anymore. When I go up to some of the products that are in the store and I try to read the ingredients on the label, I can't see it, even with my glasses. So
Oh,
and when you're thinking of like skincare, or something that's very ingredient focused, the idea that you can't really read the ingredients, or that the packaging, when you're looking at it, it's very beautiful. It says the name, the brand, what it is, but you really don't understand the why of it. So how do you do that with a box? Maybe you can't. Then can you do it with your store signage? That's
Mm.
hard too. There's not a lot of space. What are you going to say? So the truth is, all the education is happening in the back channels, online, your website,
Yeah.
blogs, articles, things like that. And then so the work of the entrepreneur, CEO, is to really figure out how to tell stories everywhere, all the time, all the different stories, find the audiences. That is not the part that they're focused on, which is sales and maybe packaging and sourcing and supply chain and the product, the physical product. So that's why this is such a hard thing to do. Of course, lots of industries are challenging, selling cars, selling computers, refrigerators, it's all the same. And you know this from advertising, but the work is nonstop, and a lot of
Not,
the work is on the other end. And then the challenge there is maybe we don't have the skills. We don't know how to do meta ads, and we don't know how to write blogs, and we don't know SEO. We don't know how to, and that's where I think for me, having been able to dial some of this in and then play with that other part, I'm starting to learn how much it requires, right? All of these things all the time. And finding one or two good
yeah.
channels is like the goal, but boy, do we test all the time. What's going to work? What's happening?
Think you have to. I think you have to experiment, and we do too. Experiment like crazy.
Hmm.
Right. Like when you find a couple channels that are working, awesome. But a lot of founders will ask me, like, oh my God, like what should I do? And what and they hate the answer because I say you have to do all of these things.
I'm glad you
Or,
said that, because
or
sometimes I'm told you do too much, and I'm like, I'm
no,
just I don't know if you can do two experiments. That's not enough. You need seven, because three are
yeah.
going to fail and two are going to be interesting, but you're going to, it's like agile
And
and
you do have to have, like, if you're, you have to have some keyword strategy. You have to be on social date pretty much daily. You have to have an
yeah,
email strategy. You have to have, other ways to get awareness, whether that's podcasts or PR or whatever those things are. But like, I know, and it sucks
yeah.
because we're all bootstrapped and we're all small and we're all trying to make it happen. And I mean, there are days when I'm like, oh shit, I haven't posted on Facebook in 2 weeks. Oh, damn.
But then
And
you're
then
also like, is Facebook really doing anything for me? And the answer is, it was so
yeah,
funny. Today I got an email from somebody who works at the bank, and I was opening a new account, and they said, oh, usually they just talk about business, and they were like, oh, FYI, I was on my Instagram and I was retargeted by one of your ads. And I just cracked up because I was like, oh, great. We finally learned how to do that.
right,
Now I mean,
exactly.
it took me how long to be able to retarget somebody who looked at my Instagram account? Like, but like, it's just so
At least
many, so
like,
many
oh,
little things. Yeah.
kind of
So yeah,
work.
maybe now if you see me like 17 times, because every time you go somewhere, you see my brand, then it's like, oh, what is this? Who is this? So it's, in a way, it's very much like dating, which I haven't done in a long time, but it's like you just have to keep kissing frogs, trying different things,
Yeah.
seeing what might turn into a prince or a
Yeah.
princess.
And you have to be willing to just be realistic and forgiving of like not everything's going to be exactly what you intended or meet your expectations. And that's learning. That's
Yeah.
okay. And you
Yeah.
move on and you do something else. And that's what I try to keep telling people in the Conscious Beauty Collective too, because they go in these stores and think it's going to be like game changing for their brand. And it's like, first of all, not one location isn't going to be game changing for anyone. It's
Yeah.
just
It's
never going to,
just, yeah. Yes.
there's never going to be enough volume. But like, you also have to do the work. You have to go to the store, do an event, promote it. I mean,
Yeah.
how many brands actually like promote the store and the giveaway? Very few.
Yeah,
Like,
it's all those things, because like, and I learned from everybody, right? Like this year I think we doubled our email list size, and a lot of that happened combination of more customers coming in the store, adding Miami, but then giveaways with other
yeah,
brands in CBC, giveaways with other brands that we meet through other channels, and we were able to grow our email and double it. Now that means that I'll have a better option potentially with numbers. It's all numbers, right? Like that I'll have a bigger potential success if I have emails, but then I have to do all the emails, and they have to send, and they have to look
and it
good, and they have
also costs
to
more. when you
Yeah.
have more
Oh, all
active
of it. Yeah.
emails, suddenly your email bill just went up a couple hundred
Yeah.
dollars a month
Yeah.
and you're like, what? So
I
it's
think,
like
yeah.
everybody takes their cut. That's the
Yeah.
reality too. It's like there's no free ride. Everybody wants their cut of everything you're doing. And you just
But I
have to,
love what you're doing with CBC because I think, again, if people understand what it is and think of it almost also like retail 101 training, but
yeah,
also entrepreneurship school for indie beauty brands, it's way more than I'm paying this to be in the store. Like when I signed up, I've been in three of your, stores, and we've had okay, good sales, not always, but it was
but
like
Nick,
enough to, yeah, it was enough to be like, okay, do I want to do it? But what made me come back every time was the people, was you, was
yeah,
the platform, was a place to go to ask the questions, a place to hear what other people are doing. So, and then the marketing and the social media and then the partnerships, because how many people, I used to be in a group called EO, which was all entrepreneurs and founders. And it's like one of the most important things to have a network of people like you. How many people can say I have 50 or plus, CEO founders of beauty brands that are in my Rolodex that I can call on or ask if I need to. And that's what you provide. So it's and the magazine, and then, you say who's doing Amazon, and seven people will say, here's the person I used, and here's all the good ones and the bad ones. Like this is priceless. This is way more than the price of, and I would pay it whether I sold anything or not. Now, the thing that I think is really amazing at what's changed with CBC is now you have many other locations, because it's true that, if you only do one, you're only going to see or learn one thing. But if you're in four or five, you're going to understand different things. And that's one thing I learned with Miami is just because it was successful in Asheville didn't mean that I knew how to do it here. And there's, of course, it's not A/B test because it's very different,
yes, it's
but
very
but I'm
different.
learning again, like things I'd need if I wanted to scale to 3 to 5 stores. I had to do this. If I had tried to do 5 stores at once, I'd be bankrupt
Oh
because you
my
can't.
gosh.
You learn, right? So this idea that you do big and go all the way, no, no, no. It's very iterative. You got to remember where most brands started. The stories you see in the press where it just happened overnight, it doesn't. It
I
never
know
did.
it's so rare that that does happen. And usually when that happens, by the way, that founder has a rich uncle, a VC friend. I mean, I'm serious,
Yes. Yeah,
like,
yeah. There's definitely that helps to have
a
deep
celebrity
pockets.
contact,
Mm-hmm.
something
Mm-hmm.
like it's usually not just everyday people like us that suddenly
Yeah.
overnight become successful. It's
But
very,
doesn't guarantee success either, because like I remember, and I don't know if you had this thought when COVID happened, and at the time I was struggling and the business probably was at, at a point where I could have said, I'm not doing it anymore. And the only reason I kept going was because I had so much inventory and I had so much skin in the game. And I was like, well, I got to get rid of it. Otherwise, I'm just throwing it away. And I just decided that I was going to keep trying and do things very incrementally. And then COVID happened, and it was like, leveled the playing field, because at that time I had nothing to lose because there was very little. But imagine if you were a thriving big brand and COVID happened and all of a sudden you're
yeah.
done. So like those people who put millions in and they were doing great, well, they had to, so it's
Yeah,
like
you're right.
doesn't matter where you are. Pivoting is just something you got to dial in as a skill set, I think, because it changes fast and you have to be nimble. I mean, and that's what makes an entrepreneur an entrepreneur.
I think it's a huge skill and it's one I've had to learn because I do get kind of attached to certain things. When
Hmm.
we we're doing our own stores, I was really enjoying it, but I had to say, wait a minute, it's not scalable. I can't do every store. Like that's me
Yeah,
doing
yeah, and
every
you're burning
store.
out, right? Yeah,
Yeah, so
exactly.
there's a point, and I remember my husband being like, this doesn't really make sense. Why don't you stop doing the CBC? And I was like, well, there's got to be another way because the concept is good. I just have to change
Hmm.
it. And
Yeah.
I do think that's not a bad thing. And sometimes when people like they're fixated on, oh, our hero product is X. I've had brands tell me this, like,
Mm.
have to put the body butter in the store because that's our hero product. Everyone loves it. We put it in the store, nobody buys it. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Because
Yeah.
again, their data point is from somewhere else. It's not
Hmm.
it doesn't correlate. And then
Totally.
they put it in the store, and then guess what? Their lip balms are flying off the shelf or whatever. And it's like,
Yes.
And they're always like, oh, that's so odd. I'm like, but this is why it's so good to have these different touch points and to have, different engagement with people because you get to experiment, you get to see. And to your point, like if you do go into a larger retail chain, hopefully we're all, myself included, we're all going to be more prepared to be able
Hmm.
to, you know, have the right products, the right price point, the right packaging, the right description, the right, because if you don't and you get kicked out of a big retailer, that is like just shut your doors. Like that is
Yeah,
like,
yeah. If you're able to get there and then, but like, it's so interesting because in each category, I think there's some things to unpack, right? Like hair care, it. I could never go into it. I don't have any experience of that category. And yet probably what everybody's doing, what the trends are, where to go. But within hair care, there's just so many subcategories. You have
yeah,
curly hair, coily hair, this kind of hair. So it's an ingredient story, it's a hair story, and so like skincare. One of the things I've been fascinated by having the CBC brands in here is how many people are in skincare and then they go into body care. Well, I tried to do body care, and body care is a whole other category. If you were selling it, it's a different buyer, and body care is a natural extension of skincare, it's a distraction in many ways because it's literally like a different category. And then such a challenging category because if you wear certain skincare, when are you going to change brands? There's only probably a few times where you can get in there and get somebody to change. And then you're trying to sell a whole skincare system, the eye thing, the face thing, the
oh,
wrinkle thing, the serum. And it's like, how many products is somebody going to buy from a brand new line? I was given a jar of La Mer at an event. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited because this is so expensive. I can't wait to use it. I used it 3 times and my skin broke out and I had pimples. And I was like, I've been using Elizabeth from Empress Naturals oils for about 2 years. Just a night serum and a face serum. It's an oil, and my skin never breaks out, and it's been consistent. And all I did was add this new skincare, and I literally have like stuffed out now. And I'm like, I forgot that that's why people don't buy new skincare brands because you don't know until you try it. Just because it's an amazing brand doesn't mean it's going to
and La
work on
Mer
your
is not an
skin. It's
experiment.
not cheap experiments.
You
So it's
got
like,
it
I
for
think it's
free,
harder. Yeah, it's
but
harder than
it is a
to
lot
get
harder.
people. So that's why makeup is a little bit more like fun and playful. Okay, I'll have 3 blushes and 4 eyeshadows,
Yeah.
and I'll get 2 palettes, nail polish. Even fragrance, if you're buying a perfume and it's $250, or I don't even know what it costs today, you're going to be buying something that, has a brand, a luxury brand associated with it, most probably because you're buying that whole thing. But yeah, how and why we create these brands and these products is really also like, does it deserve every inch of you and your savings account and your energy? Because this is really hard. Yeah.
It's really hard. And I don't, now when people are interested in launching a brand, I try to tell them all the reasons not to, because I just I just think it's just a lot more it's never ending.
Yeah.
You never really get a day off. Now for my personality type, that's okay because I like to be busy, but there even are days for me when I'm like, what am I doing? This is
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
So, and other people just don't want to deal with that. So it is a lot. But look, we're here. We've made it. We're, COVID didn't get us. Cancer didn't get me.
Hmm.
The hurricane didn't get you. You
Yeah.
know, it's like we're still standing. We're making things happen. So it really is about resilience and powering through. And I think you are definitely a role model when it comes to that because you've done.
Yeah,
uh,
it's been a lot of the roller coaster. So just to speak to that a little bit, it's like, I always think your business is a reflection of you, just like maybe your children are, or your home is, or the people you have relationships with. So if you want to know how you're doing, you can look at how those
yeah,
things are doing. The hard part is when you feel it's not a reflection of you and you're like, why? But what I've learned is I thought it was a reflection of me, but I had a lot of work I needed to do on myself because when I was carrying around on pain and trauma and baggage and fear and beliefs from other businesses that I had and partnerships that failed and money challenges in my life and all that, I was not expressed in an abundant way. And I was getting that result back. And so I literally had to work on me to make the business really be like me. It's not like the business is going to reflect anything but what I'm being. And that's why, an investor comes and looks and they kind of like it's about the entrepreneur. And then they look at your numbers because numbers aren't emotions. And then they start there. And that tells them if there's something there that's healthy or potentializable, right? But it's hard to say, like, I did this, I did that, and then blame that it didn't work. That's already the language of failure because there's no place to be a victim in any of this. It's just like you have to be so elevated and conscious about where the manifestation comes from. So it is more than a business, I think. And that's why you do it and I do it because it is self-expression ultimately.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my God, I think you're right. I definitely feel that way. I mean, there are times I think I'm crazy. Like I didn't need to do this. I
Right.
mean, but the problem is once this is why I tell people that are like on the fence, like, do you really want to do it? Because once you're in, it's hard to stop, especially if you have a
Mm,
that has physical products, because you
yeah.
have a ton of inventory, you've got your products all over the place. Like it's just so in a way that's good because it motivates me to keep going, but
Yeah.
in a way it's bad because it's not just you can't really dabble. It's not
Mm,
the kind of business where you can just be like, I don't want to do coaching anymore. I'll just stop. You can't,
yeah.
that anyway, but this has been
I totally agree. I mean, like I was telling this to my daughter, I have an email that was like an email from my past life that became my personal email. And for some reason, I didn't renew the domain. And I mostly use it for like stuff. But
some
people still
email.
find me there. But and I went the other day and it was empty and there was nothing there. And I was like, what happened to my email? And then I got the notice, oh, your domain expired. And I was like, oh my God, I gotta go get this email back. And then I was like, hell no, this is amazing. I just lost like 20 years of my life and I can't get it back. And I'm good with it. If you want to find me, you can find me. I don't need that email. And it's like, it felt like a relief because it was a lot of stuff that I had to carry everywhere. So yeah, it feels like that, like unburdening, getting it simple, streamlining. That's, I think, like an amazing thing. So.
It really is. I mean, that was what we did when we sold our house on the East Coast and moved because it was really about just simplifying our life. And now we have this very small house in Palm Springs where my products are all stacked up, like, but it's like mental clarity. It's
Hmm.
making room in your brain for just things
Yeah.
because otherwise it's just too much clutter. I've become so anti-clutter. It's crazy, but
Yeah.
it's my mom is a bit of a I won't say anything negative. My mom
Order
likes stuff. My
stuff.
daughter
Yeah.
likes
Yeah.
her stuff too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Daughter will openly say that she, when she moves out, she lives with us. Her room is stacked full of stuff that she's gonna just stack more, it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but at some point I do think it's healthier to let it
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, anyway. Well,
So
this has been great.
2025, do you have any goals or anything? I know we're getting into a new year. So like,
Yeah. I mean, my sanity is one, but I'm definitely I'm gonna try to be a little bit more mindful about how I'm launching the CBC because the problem is I get these stores that are now reaching out to me and they're like, oh, we want a shelf. And I'm the sucker that's like, yes. And then after we do it, it's not great, And then
mm-hmm,
I'm like, wait, why did I agree to that? I don't even, and so there's a couple right now that I'm a little regretting, but it is what it is. And and I
mm-hmm.
and I kind of wish I hadn't agreed, but
Yeah.
but it's again, it's learning. I'm learning about I have to put the brakes on things more. So I
Yeah.
think 2025 will be, I think it is going to be a more of a thoughtful growth year.
Yeah. Not just
That's what
growth for growth's sake. Yeah, I think that's that's a great goal. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think, we still want to do them, we still want to grow, but it's got to be the right thing for everyone and it's got to make sense. And it can't, and also I'm the one doing all the work. So I can't be flying around everywhere doing all this. And
Oh my gosh, I don't know how, yeah. I mean, it's kind of like, when somebody tells you to add something and you think it's not anything, or even adding an employee, and then all of a sudden you're managing people and then doing your work. It's like it's exponentially more complex. It's not like just one more thing. Um,
yeah. And I don't
yeah,
think people fully understand, like that first week in December when I was at Newport, two in New York, and then one in
my
Virginia.
goodness.
I
Yeah,
literally, the next week, I was like, why did I agree to all that?
yeah.
That
Well, the
was,
travel, if you add travel to already the busy, it's exponentially more challenging
but
on the life. Yeah.
I don't want to complain because those are good problems to have. I mean, look,
Yes. Yeah.
so like in the grand scheme of things, it's good, but I do think I have to be a little more balanced. So I'm working on that.
Hmm.
And we're going to keep traveling. That's more of our personal stuff, right? Because that's the
Yeah.
one that we started really doing more aggressively this past year is like, I want to be in Dominica. I'm going to Dominica and I'm going to be there for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It's Wi-Fi. It's fine. It's like nothing's going to crash and burn. So I'm trying to be a little bit better about that because that's just at least makes me trick myself into thinking I have balance. You know what I mean?
I think balance is overrated. I mean, I think balance is like, again, in the day, in the moment, but you know the difference with a day where it feels like good and a day where it feels like it's too much. And the thing is you don't always get to choose because the more you manifest, the more you may have an overflow of abundance. But how you tackle it, like you said, the mindset is so important. So, yeah, I think 2025, we have a lot of things we're doing, but it does still feel like a transition year, in that it's another year of trying before we see what the next thing is, because we're doing a lot more experiments. Maybe they're at a bigger scale, but there's still no like we can go big and go home, because it's like everything is incremental. So I
Yeah.
I I feel ya. I feel ya. So yeah, get some rest over the holidays, and here we come, 2025.
Yay.
More and big and beautiful.
Well, it's always a pleasure chatting. We will continue the conversation in Miami in a couple weeks, which I'm
Yeah,
excited to see.
absolutely.
That'll be great. Well, take care. Have a wonderful holiday and New Year, and I will
Thank
see.
you. Nice to see everybody. Thanks again for the opportunity to host everybody here. It's been a incredible
Oh,
experience,
I think
and
it's great.
can't wait to see what we do next, all of us all together
Exactly.
as a community.
I do think the community is stronger together for sure.